to the polls on Sunday. Independent journalist Crystal Odison has been following the story and joins us live now from Cape Town. And Crystal, the vote was on Sunday. What is taking so long in tallying the vote in Cameroon?
Good afternoon, Tulasi's. Well, this is part of the challenge when we see opposition candidates coming out, bringing out their supporters. We've seen it in Kenya, we've seen it in Zimbabwe, Tulasi's, and this is what really concerns opposition parties, because they really feel when there's a delay in releasing any results, this is when the doctoring of results take place, and we can't blame them. Firstly, Cameroon has been ruled for most under 40s. They've only known one leader, Paul Biya. He's about 85 to Lesizwe, which makes him Africa's oldest leader. He's been in power for more than 35 years. He's seeking another 7-year term. Now, officially, of course, they say vote counting is commencing. The Electoral Commission Act is very clear that no political party is supposed to declare themselves the winner. But at the expense, when there's silence on the ground, people are getting agitated, and then they come out to declare themselves winners.
And it's almost difficult, Crystal, to have any kind of serious conversation about the Cameroonian election of this year without mentioning the difficulties that the country has seen in the last 2 or so years around the issue of the Anglophone Cameroonians and Francophone Cameroonians. How much of a factor was that in this election?
I think it was a big factor. I mean, firstly, today, the African Union Observer Mission, which was basically one of a handful of observer missions that observed the elections, they said that the preliminary results or indication of their report have shown that things went fairly well. Of course, they've raised concern that there was hardly any voting in the Northwest and the North-South, which is, of course, those Anglophone regions. And in fact, they had never deployed any observers there due to the insecurity. So on Sunday, we actually saw a gun battle, 3 separatists killed, and people were simply too scared to vote. And I think this has been going on for more than a year. It's one of those human rights issues that, local NGOs and international NGOs like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have kept on reminding us of the huge displacement that's happening. There's been no schooling for children in the area due to the insecurity, and there's constant clashes between government forces and, of course, the separatists. So it just made for a very untenable situation to happen, and therefore people simply didn't come out to vote. But that's not the only issue, Tulasi's. Also in the far north, the country's battling Boko Haram, who's been very active in that belt from Nigeria to Cameroon to Niger, and so that's the added insecurity. So for those living in the Francophone regions like Yaoundé, they're simply saying, well, Paul Biya is the right man. He's a strong man. He will keep things together. But I think for young people, and of course those in the Anglophone regions, are saying that, the insecurity and what's happening is simply not enough, and that someone else must be given a chance to lead the country.
So it would seem indications are, Crystal, that we could be waiting until around the 22nd of October. How closely contested do you believe this election was, given also the dynamics within the opposition itself, which wasn't particularly united?
I think that was a big factor. They weren't very united. So you had more than 7 presidential candidates. And so the opposition parties couldn't agree to one candidate, which means that they've split the vote. And that is a fact. Also, in terms of the rules, winner takes it all. So there's no 50+1 like we've seen in other countries, like in Kenya or in Zimbabwe, for that matter. So if Paul Biya receives the majority of the vote, and whatever that majority might be, the Supreme Court will declare him the winner. So in terms of the Constitution, the Supreme Court will announce the results, and they actually do have 2 weeks. So yes, you are correct. We'll only expect that result after the 20th. But I do think there's agitation on the ground, and I think the African Union, they are quite concerned about what's happening. Cameroon, a central country in the Central Africa region of Africa, and insecurity cannot be afforded. And we know what's happened in Kenya with post-election violence. We also know what's happened in Zimbabwe. So the African Union, I think, can ill afford another post-election crisis on its hand.
Crystal Odison, thank you so much for those insights. And speaking on behalf of all our viewers, don't be a stranger to this program.